Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to get started. We are going to slightly alter the agenda and move the Beach Plum Meadows application to the head of the queue so that our consultant, Mr. Cleary, does not have to.
I'm going to make a motion to open the meeting.
So could we have a motion to open the meeting? Yeah.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Just announce what day this is for the
This is
record.
the Monday, December 7th, regularly scheduled meeting of the Southampton Village Planning Board. With regards to the Beach Plum Meadows application, this application has been under review by this board for many months. Mr. Cleary, is there anything remaining to be added to this?
There's not, Mr. Chairman. You have a preliminary approval resolution before you this evening. It includes all of the issues that you have discussed. All of the conditions that your board has requested are incorporated into the resolution. I think you're in a position where you can consider that resolution this evening.
Thank you. Mrs. Gilmartin or Mr. Lemansky, would either of you like to make any comment about this at this time?
Okay.
Okay, thank you. I'd just like to say that we've carefully reviewed this and listened to many comments from both the developer in their efforts to improve the application at points that have been raised by the public, and also many concerns and issues that have been raised by the public. I would like to say that this is an approval of a preliminary application. There's some issues that the board continues to have concern with. And there are covenants and provisions placed in this decision which address those concerns, such as the situation of Guilfoyle Street, which the applicant has promised to remedy by the time we would get to the final approval of this application. So one of the provisions provides for that. There is another provision regarding the operation and maintenance of the sanitary system. There is a provision to require the applicant to indemnify and guarantee the successful performance of this in this. There is the ability, the final approval is also contingent upon approval by the Suffolk County Health Department and all the other county and state organizations that would have jurisdiction over the water quality of the application. So, again, this is a preliminary application. There are difficulties that the public has raised regarding the slow implementation of this plan. I think they are issues that are not impossible to fix. They just need to be addressed, and they need to be addressed properly. So what we are trying to do with this application is to provide the applicant with the opportunity to address those well, and in the way that they have indicated that they intend to do. So with that said, I would like to have a motion to,
You might ask if there's any public comment at this stage.
is there further public comment?
Yeah. Valerie Hart, Corrigan Street. You've heard this before, and I'm just going to... Okay, yeah. You've heard this before about park space or open space. And I have looked at the preliminary plat, and on the preliminary plat, it says park space on the top where the stormwater catch is. And it also says park space where the effluent from the sewage treatment plant comes out. And I just want to remind everyone of the code. I think it's code 97-5, which is F, and 97-311. and it says park space should be exclusive of land to be used for drainage. So where the park space is on the affluent, that's drainage from the sewage treatment plant. And where the north of the property along the railway tracks where it says park space, that's drainage for the stormwater drain.
Ms. Hart, this board
I'm
has
sure-
determined that there is no sufficient provision for park space in the application. So one of the conditions, again, of the approval vote is that since this has not been provided, the applicant shall pay a park fee pursuant to the provisions of the Southampton Village Code, Section 97-35B, again, prior to final approval.
Yeah, I know that, but I just want to make sure that it's noted that the applicant, I know the applicant has said that if the board found any problem with the park space, that he would pay the fee or pay whatever is necessary. And I understand that, but I just don't want to see a preliminary plat, which is actually marked park space, turn out to be eventually park space. That's the only reason I bring it up, just to make sure we're getting our park space. Because I think that there are a lot of issues in the village that the money could be used, if they are money in lieu of the park space, for something to improve for the citizens of the village, for the community. So I just wanted to bring that up. That's always been one of my questions. In regard to Guilfoyle, I hope you seriously look at that because it really has serious implications if it's supposed to be. Even though it's a paper road, it was at one time deemed that they were going to make it a road. And it also brings up issues if it stays a paper road, it's considered a road, so it brings up questions about variances. If they wanted to put in pools there, then they'd have to get, you've heard of this all before. I mean, you can go back to our other things, our other talks. And just, this is definitely going to go for more viewing and more consideration before it goes for the final plat.
Definitely. there
Okay,
are-
and it will
at least-
become before the board again. I think which is very nice of the developer, he's willingly said that he'll look at this chroma glass plant and seriously think if there's a better plant to go in aside from chroma glass. So I think it might be a great thing if the village board wanted to hear more about what's going on in regard to water in the community, they might get the new baykeeper to come and speak. It's a thought, and I think it's a good thought, because Suffolk County has, from what I understand, just passed a resolution or something similar that will make it mandatory for anyone who's putting in either septic systems or sewage systems to be licensed. I'm not quite sure because I just heard it very briefly, but I think it's just brand new and it's just going through. So that's all I have to say, and I know the applicant has said that he would consider these things.
Thank you. Well, we definitely will look at this again when the applicant heads towards final approval. There are 22 conditions and conclusions within the decision, all of which must be properly answered. Does anyone else like to say something?
Yeah, I had a question for you. Donna DeLeo, Southampton Village resident. We have a preliminary plat. You're going to ostensibly move forward pending certain conditions be met. What if in the process these conditions are not met or can't be met? Or if you discover a problem, for instance?
And there
Let's
wouldn't be
say
final
there's been no formal soil testing done. We only have comps. Supposing that there is some construction being done, there's some demolition being done, and something in the soil is discovered to be amiss.
Well, one of the conditions is that they prepare a soil management program, so until that's done, they can't start doing any soil disturbance.
And what is a soil management program?
What are they going to do to make sure that the soil is not washing out onto the street or being disturbed in a way that
Oh, I understand that, but I'm just talking about, for instance, if contaminants are found in the soil somehow, or during the process, being that it is over this very sensitive water supply for 3,500 village residents' homes. That's not just residents, that's the area that it covers, well, that's just Southampton Village. It actually
You're
covers
wrong,
more.
Mr. The work would stop if anything happened, it would be my
I think there are
guess.
two parts of your comment. I'm wondering about it. First of all, it's very hard to address a hypothetical issue with this.
Well, it's only
Whatever-
hypothetical.
Let me have finished. Whatever is in the
Sure.
soil now is in the soil. It's been leaching there for however many years up to today. But the board retains jurisdiction of this up until final approval. And depending upon what happens, this board is not an enforcement board. But if there's a contaminant found, there are other agencies in the state, notably the DEC, that would have jurisdiction over these issues. So it's very hard to address a hypothetical on such abstract grounds, but there are jurisdictions and entities that have control over this as this thing unfolds.
Well, you understand, my concern is it's only hypothetical and abstract because there was no actual testing done. If we wanted it to be clear, that testing would have been done at the cost of, I imagine it's a few $1,000s. I can look it up for you if you'd like.
I don't know how many tests would have to be done. I don't know what you envision a test to be offhand. I don't know what the tests are, but do you test every 10 feet, every 30 feet, 2 tests? I don't know. There could be one pocket of a contaminant on there that might be missed by a test if you only did 3 soil samples. So, you know, again, it's very difficult to address it, but I'm saying that the board is not an enforcement board. Once it signs off on the final plat, this is the jurisdiction of other entities. The board does have will have some residual jurisdiction over the covenants, et cetera, but as far as a physical condition like that, you know, it would have to be reported to other authorities dealing with pollution.
Okay, and so in that event, then there would be some remediation, I would imagine, called for? And I would imagine.
I would imagine, but that would be up to that organization, if there's a.
Okay, fair enough. And then just a final question. This preliminary plat with its many changes that are better than it started out, but also these conditions that need to be met, will these be made available, will this document be made available for the public to take a look at so that there's an understanding of what these issues
As soon as
are?
this becomes part of the public record.
Okay, fine. All right, thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you. Ms. Conrad?
Doesn't have to do with the board being an enforcement board, there's no question about that. But there is an environmental requirement, since this subdivision appears to sit on one of the 5 sources of drinking water supply for the village. It's mandatory to have a SECRA review now, not after you have given some approval and some work takes place. You are very liberal with giving the developers a negative declaration based on nothing whatsoever, just because they say so. I think this, when you are possibly threatening, I know it's hypothetical, but that's the purpose of SECRA, whether it's hypothetical or possibly imminent, to have a SECRA review before you do one approval whatsoever. I saw that negative declaration some weeks ago, and I was really stunned. Anyway, I leave it to your good judgment, and to the law, which is even more important. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, the secret review requires a close examination, which we feel we've done. We have also relied on Suffolk County Water Authority, who has said fine with them what the applicant is wanting to do. So after close review and their input, we've made the decision to make the negative declaration. And that's, do the best job we can do here with the information we have. Thank you. Does anyone else have anything else to say? Thank you. And now at this time, can I put it away? Have a motion to adopt the conditional resolution of preliminary plat approval.
So moved.
Are all in favor of this conditional resolution, say aye.
Aye.
All say nay. Nay.
Second on that motion.
She said,
All right.
that's good.
Thank you, Mr. Cleary.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you
Chairman.
all for your input.
Thanks, Pat.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Steve, that's yours too.
We have a couple of extension requests to deal with. One being LMR Associates, applicant requesting extension to March 2016. Kathy?
Yeah, Bo and I spoke about this, and we checked in with the building
Yes,
department.
Kevin, I had spoke with Dean McNamara last Tuesday or Wednesday. He said as far as the fire marshal is concerned, there are no further issues, that the issues that did exist regarded interior conditions of the building or an exterior or entrance and exit. So is there anything left now inhibiting or prohibiting the issuance of the building permit?
The last information I got was that they hadn't gotten the final okay from the New York State Division of Building Standards and Codes, which they had been referred to by Mr. McNamara, but I might not have the most up-to-date information. We'd asked until March just to be on the safe side. We're certainly optimistic that this is, if not already settled, will be settled as quickly as possible. But that was the purpose of the 3-month request, if the board.
Well, to my knowledge, there's nothing impeding it now. Now, why it hasn't been issued, I don't know, other than maybe somebody calling the building inspector's office and just reminding them that it's available. But, so I have no problem with it, Roy, but I think we're getting down to the point where we know of no outstanding impediments to the issuance of the permit.
Okay. The applicant's certainly been diligent with this. We'll follow up
Yeah.
with the fire marshal
case.
immediately to try and get this settled
Right.
quickly.
I have no problem with the March extension, Roy.
Okay. I'll make a motion at the request of the applicant to adjourn for all purposes the LMR 89 Hampton Road application to March 2016.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
South Lane Properties, 104 Gin Lane.
So this is an extension because they're waiting for Health Department, I believe. Is that correct? Flanagan?
That's correct. Just for the record, as you're probably familiar with subdivisions, when there are existing improvements, quite often the health department requires you to upgrade the existing sanitary systems. This is a rather large property. We had to do that. We've actually finished the work, and we're waiting for health department approval to sign off on that work. Then they will act on the subdivision. So that's the reason for the request. And if you need it, I have copies of the communications with the health department, so we're not dragging our feet. But that's the reason.
Thank you. So that seems justified. Can I have a motion to,
I'll make a motion to approve the request of the applicant to adjourn for all purposes the South Lane Properties, 104 Gin Lane, to May 2016.
Excuse me, Mr. Lemay, actually, it's to extend the approval. That's not to adjourn it, but to extend the condition.
To extend it, I'm sorry.
Sketch plan.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 105 Little Plains Road, Paul and Joan Robinson.
Application for an extension just came in after our work session. However, it's another one of the cases where they are working with the health department to get approval, so.
And they're requesting to March?
They're requesting 90 days till March, yep.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the request of the applicant to an extension to March 2016.
I'll second it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Public hearing, Village of Southampton, new ambulance center at 151 Windmill Lane. The applicant was going to make a presentation.
Mark Epwood, Mayor of the Village of Southampton. I understand at the work session, he's had some questions, and there was a letter that was brought up. I'm not sure, it's my first time in front of you guys, so I'm not sure exactly what you have seen from the application. If you had any questions in reference to this. I know you'd received a letter from a neighbor.
Yes, there have been two neighbors who have raised points regarding the application.
Let me just give you some history behind this, the application and kind of the reasoning behind why we're here. It's a municipal project. Technically, the municipality doesn't have to come to the planning board to request approval from the planning board. The reason why we went into this process is because when we did the bond vote for the fire department, and we went in front of the planning board with the fire department, firehouse on Hampton Road, we got feedback from the neighbors, which helped, I think, mitigate some issues surrounding lights and sirens and some setbacks and so we wanted to do the same with the ambulance barn, to come to the planning board to get feedback from you guys in reference to the ambulance itself, the siting of the barn on this location, and maybe get some feedback from you guys in reference to that. I know that there was a letter that was sent to this board on November 30th. I just wanted to make a few comments. They listed I think it was 31 alternative sites in the village. The sites that they have here, Munns Point, Parkland, the Meadow Lane area, Parkland, Pheasant Close, Downs Path, Parkland, the Willow Street by the Long Island Railroad in Parkland, it's the park over there. The North Sea Aldridge Lane sites purchased with Community Preservation Fund money, it's Parkland. The Pheasant Close, Somerset, McGee Street, 4 sites over there. Again, Parkland, some of that was Parkland donated to the village with the subdivision there. So the issue here is that this site is central in the village. It's from a response time, it's easy to get to. It allows the ambulance to respond to all sites throughout the village. We'll say that currently they're on Meeting House. We did go through a whole vetting process to look at, do we want to expand the Meeting House site? Did we want to convert the Windmill Lane Firehouse site to the ambulance barn, or really build on this property? The reason why we only looked at those 3 pieces of property is because any other piece that we have to go through and purchase, because everything else, most of the land that we own is either occupied by building space, or it's parkland, which we can't build on. And a structure like this, we went through and did a cost analysis and improvement. So Meeting House Lane, although it's central, it's a very difficult spot to get in and out of. It forces the ambulance to go up and down Job's Lane, and in the middle of the summertime is a very dangerous area. It is very difficult to back ambulances back into that site, and so the ambulance department itself felt like that we were better off trying to find a place that was more accessible. The Windmill Lane at the firehouse, we had looked at that. Basically, the cost improvements on that were exactly the same as building a new building. The issue around that building is that actually is the fire department's central location. It's the fastest response time from the fire department down into the estate area and into the county park. We keep a few engines in there in the heavy rescue vehicles to be able to respond there. So from a strategy of providing emergency services throughout the village, maintaining that house as a fire department was extremely important. And also its obvious location to the central business district, which when you're dealing with structures that are most of them are adjoined. They're old, 100-year-old buildings, a lot of them. I don't have to tell you, I mean, remember when 75 Main caught on fire and they had a brick oven? So one small fire in there could take out a significant portion of the village. So having a rapid response area coming off that building was really not an option, which put us at the current location by the police department, which allowed us to address a few different needs. One is the parking lot. You know, they said additional 107 spaces. This is really driven by the court system and the demand for parking at the courts. If you go on a Monday or anytime the courts are in session, it's that lot is full and they're overflowing. They're parking in the grassy area. So we had looked at a few different ways to site the building on the lot in this location. And we felt like the current layout is probably the most effective way to do this with the, there's ample room to move the vehicles in and out. There's plenty of parking for the volunteers. You know, when I first became mayor 10 years ago, we had about 16 people that were volunteering in the ambulance department. Now we're up to, 70 members. As I said earlier, it's fastest response time in Suffolk County. This department's been recognized as a premier department and the Department of the Year, I think 2 years ago by Suffolk County. And, we're running 3 ambulances. They do 800 calls a year out of there. We're one of the we provide support to the Southampton Town Ambulance. We also to Bridgehampton and Hampton Bays. So, and there's a lot of activity. We have a 3rd ambulance that we're operating now. We have a beach vehicle to be able to respond down onto the beach. We have a tent area that if there's a large fire, it allows a safe area for the firemen to come into, and especially if in the wintertime, come out of the cold. All things that have been used, especially in the last year. There's been a lot of activity within both emergency departments. So this is also one of the initiatives of the ambulance department was the creation of a heart-safe community, which the current location and site doesn't afford them the opportunity to do training. This new location will actually allow the Village Volunteer Ambulance to become a certified CPR trainer, and which is a fantastic asset. I mean, they go over to the high school and have trained the high school students in, what is that, compression training? What's that? Hands-only compression training, so all the high school students are trained in that. So, great group of volunteers. I don't know if you had any questions about the building itself. Let me just see here. We don't plan on any lights there. I don't think there's a need for a light, which was another point. There's always liability in everything that you do. So I don't know if you have any other questions.
Well, thank you for that. Anybody have anything from here? Since the work session and listening to and reading some of the points that had been brought forward and discussing our role as the planning board with our council and amongst ourselves, one of our questions was, do we have a jurisdiction or any say over the location of the ambulance? And our sense was that we really don't. It is the trustees and the village's decision where to put it. Once you decide to put it there, we are pleased to provide input with regard to if the neighbors feel it needs more screening, if the lights are protruding into neighboring properties, the same we do with any other application. But the actual location of where it goes, we've never decided any of that, and I don't think it's part of our
It's
stated
not,
responsibility.
and it was a bond vote. I want to, it was, when was that, a year ago? Yeah, a year, how many? About 18 months, yeah, Halloween of last year, 2014, which majority of the village voters voted in favor of this. At that point in time, the information was given in reference to the house, the size, the cost, the location, all of that. And it passed by a majority vote of, it was a
That said,
65-35 split.
wherever you put it, there's gonna be some people living near it who are probably gonna think that it's noisy, or there's gonna be congestion or traffic. Is there anything that can be done, or that the department has thought about in terms of ameliorating that for the folks on Windmill Lane?
Oh, you know, I know that, you know, we've looked at, you know, positioning of the doors, and trying to minimize the impact in the area. You know, I think we're open to hearing anything that the neighbors would like to say as far as, you know, reducing impact of them. And I did read about the dog park and the impact upon the adjacent neighbors. I know that the dog park committee has been trying to do what they can do to help them out, and I hope they've been responsive to them. You know, it's one of the very few municipal lots that there's an opportunity for us to put municipal facilities that actually service the community, without us having to go out and purchase land, which I don't have to tell any of you guys, the cost of doing that almost is cost prohibitive now.
Well, thank you. Why don't we hear what other
Yeah,
folks have to say,
okay.
and you can have the opportunity to answer that if other new points come up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
My name is Bob Whitman. I live at 217 Windmill Lane. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, for the explanation. I want to make it really clear that this is not a NIMBY issue for me. This is just an issue of trying to preserve a beautiful open piece of grassland. I handed out a handout to everybody that shows the picture of this piece of land. It's incredibly beautiful. If you're traveling north on Windmill Lane, you pass the old library, the new library, the Southampton Press, the police station, and then this open piece of land right next to the dog park. And there's just very little open land in the village, and it seems sad to me to put this 10,000-foot facility right on one of the major ingress and egresses to our village. Regarding the traffic, I guess one key reason for leaving the Meeting House Lane area is traffic and the difficulty. With the new Stop and Shop, there are very large trucks that are parked right in front of this facility constantly. I live right there and I see them. Traffic also backs up constantly with the stoplight on Windmill Lane and North Sea Road, particularly in the season. Backs up all the way past the police station, so that'll be very difficult for an ambulance to go in and out. And also the road, I'm not sure the road is wide enough to accommodate cars on both sides pulling over and accommodating the ambulance. So this is all a concern. The other choices, it seems to me, the fact that something is designated as a park, I don't know if that can somehow be dealt with. But the most logical choice that I came up with was the land behind 7-Eleven. That land, if it's been designated as a park, I don't understand why, because nobody ever goes back there, nobody sees it. That would be a perfect place to put this facility. One of the members of the building department also said that he felt the perfect place for this is the firehouse, and you've looked at that, Mr. Mayor. But I kind of question whether the beautiful new building, fire station on Hampton Road, wouldn't be able to service the same area almost just as well as the firehouse across from Shippey's. I guess in closing, I would like to maintain as much open land as grasslands as we can in our village. I think of what Frederick Law Olmsted did with Central Park. Can you imagine New York City without Central Park? I mean, we need as much open land as we possibly can have. And if there's another place to put this, I really would like people to think about that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Bob, I just wanted to mention one thing to you. I wasn't present for the site issues, but the property next to 7-Eleven was purchased with community preservation funds from the town.
can that
so
be undone
no,
somehow?
No, that cannot be undone,
Why on earth would the community buy that land? It's
because
just-
it was open space.
But nobody ever,
Talking
nobody
about
ever sees it.
Well, how could you say nobody ever sees it? I mean, everybody that drives through North Sea Road gets to see it. Are you talking the one
Behind
south?
7-Eleven behind 7-Eleven?
There's no property south, no, behind 7-Eleven, do you mean east?
East of, if you turn into if you go straight on that little street by 7-Eleven.
On, next to Aldrich Lane, on the south
Yes,
side?
yes.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
That's community preservation land.
Yeah, okay, well,
And so most of the other sites, though, that were referred to in the commentary there, have major issues with access, with wetlands, with park issues. People give land for parks thinking that it'll be park forever. And to change it later on because of other needs or concerns, really sort of puts a chilling effect on anybody who's thinking of giving land or dealing in some kind of dedication to a
I guess it's the
village.
purpose that should be.
Yeah, that people want their wishes honored, so.
The other location that I kind of question, it doesn't appear to be all parkland, is this land on Pheasant Close. It appears to me that there are 4 building lots on Pheasant Close.
Well, the issue is, do you want to put something like this in the middle of a residential area?
Well, we're in the middle of our community now.
Well, you're on a commercial street. That's Office District Zone in which the property is now located, across from a retail zone.
Well, I think that should be considered. I mean, there are 5 large building lots on Pheasant Close that could be used.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Bo.
You're welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Good evening, sirs and ladies. Michael Jonke, village resident, 215 Windmill Lane. You have seen my letters, and I appreciate the mayor trying to address them. I appreciate it's always intimidating when you're opposing the mayor on something. But in any event, the reason that, as Mr. Whitman also mentioned, that we have serious concerns with this proposal is primarily driven by traffic. I think to say that there's always going to be traffic concerns, this is a situation where this ambulance facility's move, a very expensive investment, is being driven by a traffic concern. If you look at the video that the village ambulance people put together to justify this move, it's because they think they have a serious traffic congestion issue now. They actually represent that they're moving to a non-business district. So I don't really know what that means for ruling out residential districts, because the representation was made that we're in a business district now, we're not moving to a business district here. But it is a business district, as we effectively recognize by virtue of being across the street from the Stop and Shop. The Stop and Shop, with its proposed expansion, even as is with the fact that it's got trucks completely blocking the street, and no matter what sort of discussions you have with them about how they can't do that, they've got no other way to get in there. So in terms of the Stop and Shop being there, the fact that you've got an existing traffic problem, you've got a move that's supposedly justified by a traffic problem. You have local residents in the area saying we have to deal with this every day during the season of being trapped in our driveway trying to get out onto Windmill Lane. And this facility is going to have the exact same issue, trying to get out onto Windmill Lane with all that traffic, with the enhanced trucking traffic for Stop and Shop, with the fact that in the season it's just unbelievable. And even now, during this time of the year, we have to wait sometimes for those Stop and Shop trucks. So it's a year-round issue, and it's made multitudes worse during the season. So the question then is, where else could they go? I mean, if there's a representation that there's not a single other village piece of property that isn't designated parkland out of the 31 we've identified, I'm not sure that that's what the mayor, with all due respect, was saying. I think that some of those pieces of property, maybe as recognized by the discussion we just had at the end of Mr. Whitman's speech, are not currently designated as parkland. Certainly when you look at the maps, you don't see park designations on many of those parcels for the zoning map. So if that's a problem, that maybe those zoning maps aren't accurate because they are parks, but I think that actually quite a few of them, or at least there are some that are not designated parkland out of those 31 that would be feasible alternatives for this. They're certainly sufficiently large to accommodate this facility in terms of whether it's a residential area. We're residents in this area, and the fact is that you're also, to the extent you've got a mixed-use sort of thing there with the Stop and Shop and the traffic that goes through this area, that goes to the very reason that they want to move this. So if they want to spend $4, $5, $6 million, whatever it's going to cost, I think the estimates are $4.9 to $5.3 million, to put this facility in this location where you've got identified traffic issues, it should be on the basis of a reasoned decision that includes a traffic study. There is no reason that there shouldn't be a traffic study to make sure that this isn't just completely replacing one horrible traffic congestion problem for another. This road is just horrendous all season long. I'm being repetitive, but I can't tell you enough how difficult it is to get out on Windmill Lane. And this facility will have to deal with that. If they're going to blare their sirens to get out onto the road, first of all, we've got the dog park there. So that's another special circumstance here versus other possible locations. We've got the dog park there, so the dogs are going to start barking. Whatever noise abatements have been agreed to in the past, this is going to be creating a completely new issue if sirens are going to be blaring and the dog park's there. Beyond that, so if the sirens have to blare to get out, then that exacerbates the dog problem. And you've invested in a beautiful, lovely dog park. Why would you turn it into something that is no longer peaceful and useful and happy for anybody, because you've got a constant concern of either the ambulance causing the dogs to bark, enhanced traffic causing horns to blare and dogs to bark? It's just a bad location for all those reasons. In addition, you have a situation where, so again, I think with respect to the alternative locations, I would like to hear something that, with respect to whether any of them, I just don't think that all 31 are parkland facilities. It may be that there were scattered parkland parcels on each of those maps that we gave you, but I don't think all 31 were. So the dog park I mentioned, it's a lovely situation. Why invite a nightmare? Oh, sorry, I lost my train of thought before. What I was intending to say was, if they do blare their horns to get out onto the street, there's still no place for there to go. They can get onto the street if they blare their horns and someone let them in, but there's no place for the cars to move, for the ambulance to get past them, because Windmill Lane is not wide enough to permit those cars to pull over without potentially pulling straight over into oncoming traffic, coming the other direction, or maybe they're going to kind of double up on the street to make this ambulance go by. There's just not sufficient room there. It's not a wide enough street. And surely some of the other locations we have talked about include wide enough streets with less traffic where whatever ambulances coming and goings need to happen, it could happen much more safely than here. And in terms of the Windmill Lane Firehouse, I do think that deserves more serious consideration. I understand the mayor's point about how it's a central location, the response time there is very fast, but those are the reasons that make that a good location for this facility. This is an ambulance facility. If a fire truck needs to get someplace fast, an ambulance needs to get someplace fast, and they're going to be able to get out of that location much quicker than they'll be able to get out of this proposed location. It's only a couple blocks away, but it's much more accessible in and out. There's already a history of lots of traffic coming in and out of that fire station. And to preserve that fire station, to serve the needs of a couple trucks, when I bet if we looked back at the record for the new fire station, we would see that there was a lot said about the new fire station, about how it was going to be able to handle all the village needs, including for situations on Main Street and elsewhere, without having to keep 2 or 3 fire trucks at that old location on Windmill Lane. I think that if that new facility was constructed to the purposes that it was represented to be capable of doing, you don't need to preserve the old facility for a couple trucks. And in fact, the very reason the mayor gave for the fact that this facility has the ability to provide emergency services very quickly makes it a much more perfect location for this type of facility, this ambulance facility. And it would be a better repurposing of that facility than it would be to construct something brand new on one of the few green spaces in the village. In terms of the 107 parking spaces, I'm not really sure what to say about that. It's driven by the court system and the lot is full, but this should not be built to provide additional parking for the court system. This is proposed to be built is an ambulance barn. So that goes to my point that we shouldn't be providing triple the necessary number of parking spaces for this ambulance barn to also deal with some other situation. Let's deal with each situation on its own merits. And the other thing that I've talked about is in my concerns is, why does it have to be such a humongous facility? We could double or triple the size of the existing space without having to make it 10,000 square feet. We could add, they've got 3 parking spaces at present. Why do we have to go from 3 to 107? I mean, there's definitely room for a lot more discussion and analysis of this proposal. And to go back to the basic point that was raised for the first time today about whether you even have jurisdiction to consider this, with all due respect, it's before you. You've asked residents to come and talk to you about it. The whole idea of bringing it before you was to provide a venue, even the mayor said, to enable residents to express their concerns. If we're going to, on the basis of you having a jurisdictional concern, say, we can't even really deal with this, then that's just a waste of the entire process and a waste of residents' time and voices to be asked to come to this meeting to speak to these things and then just say, we didn't really need to bring it to you guys anyway, and we don't really have jurisdiction to deal with this anyway. Deal with the concerns that residents have made, require a traffic study that, in terms of reducing liability, would provide, I think, arguably the reason basis for the determination of this location that you need to sort of mitigate that liability. It's a special situation. Not all situations involve liability. When you've got an ambulance, people waiting to get an ambulance, people needing an ambulance, that's a special situation that deserves special consideration in terms of whether there's traffic problems that need to be addressed, and it warrants a traffic study. However, a few thousands of dollars, 20, even if it's tens of thousands, that costs in relation to a $5 million facility. It's a worthwhile investment to make sure that the mistake that's supposed to be remedied here is not being just moved to a new location.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to address the board? Mr. Mayor, would you like to respond in any way?
I just would, part of the purpose of being here is to get exactly the information, feedback, and I appreciate so what I'd like to do is go back to the committee and have a discussion with the individuals involved here, and then come back at the next meeting and be able to discuss some of the comments. We'll explore the different sites and see if there's a way to mitigate some of the issues brought up here. I appreciate the comments. I thank them for the feedback here, and can go from there. Okay.
Thank you.
You're requesting an adjournment?
So I'm going to request an adjournment. So
I'll make a motion
next meeting. So.
at the request of the mayor to adjourn for all purposes and keep open the public hearing, the Village of Southampton, 151 Windmill Lane.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. We have some tennis court applications to consider.
First one's adjourned.
136 Bishop's Lane.
How much would a pool
Excuse me,
purpose cost?
Roy, on the Halsey Holdings,
Yes.
that application, I'm informed by the building department, is not pending in front of the Board of Appeals. There was never an application submitted to the Board of Appeals. So based upon the information imparted to me, I'm requesting that the board pass a resolution striking this from the agenda.
Okay. So moved.
And second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do we have a file on that?
I'm not sure we do or not, Pam.
You may want to send it down because it was,
I've got nothing.
136 Bishop's Lane.
the applicant. Yes.
Michael White, Southampton. I resubmitted, there was something about a invert for the tennis court. I submitted that. That's what we were waiting for, and it should be in the file.
We have it, and we reviewed it, and the plans are fine. There's no mention of a hydro court, so, I mean, it's just,
It's gonna be a
last time we
regular
spoke,
court
I guess
with-
it's gonna be a regular court, but whatever, I mean, the drainage will work for a typical court now, so
Okay.
they provided the inverter.
Have you changed
Do
the
we have,
plan? or-
do we have new plans?
Yes.
I spoke with the engineer, and he's like, just do it the regular way for now, because they're not, the plans we gave are, they're not making sense to them. And they said if we come back and we do a hydro core, all it is a pump. And what it's doing is pumping the water in and out, and you know, it's basically the same court. It's hard-true, it's porous, you know, the water's going into the drain. It's just, you know, sometimes what'll happen with the other court is if there's water in the drain, it'll pump back onto the court. So for now, he's like, just leave it as a hard-true court with the regular drainage in it.
And we're good to go with that?
Tennis court?
But it's not sort of a one or
the
the
tennis
other.
court.
If you get approval for the regular hard-to, you can't just sort of decide to build the other one and go ahead with that.
It's the same drainage.
Understood.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the same drainage.
Well, this now shows, instead of a perforated pipe, it shows an additional pipe, so they're
No, I
showing
get
that
that.
the drainage will go from the court into the drainage basins, and they're providing adequate storage, so,
Right, it's the storage that
right.
Yeah.
is the issue, because, I mean, the rules are that you have to provide the drainage. If you don't provide the drainage,
Right.
you shouldn't have it. And when you said at one of the previous meetings that you've built a couple of these already in the village, that means that we approved something, and then you built something else, which,
No, we never went for approvals. We did one on Pheasant Close. We never got approvals.
you
This
built the
was-
tennis court without an approval
This was
from this
years
board?
ago, yeah. And it didn't come before this board that I know of. And it was, they said that it was replacing an existing court. That's why we didn't need it. So, I mean, if you have a court that's out of the ground that's not flooding anyone, certainly a court that's in the ground isn't gonna hurt anyone, because if it had no drainage, you'd only be hurting yourself. You'd be filling it.
I don't disagree with
Yeah.
that, but there's rules, and,
Right.
and the rules are you need adequate drainage.
Right. We have adequate. We're not, this doesn't pump anymore. I mean, the surface area of the court's the same, so if it rains, we're gonna get the same amount of water going into the drain. You know, and what the hydro court does is, you have to have a sprinkler on a regular hard-true court, so it's the same thing. It's just irrigating the court, and they're putting the pipes on the ground, so he might go ahead and do that at some point.
Right, well, as long as you have these
Yeah.
3 drains in at the same time, then that's fine.
Yep, yeah, we're gonna do definitely hard-true now.
Okay,
So this is ready for decision then.
okay.
We don't have our
Roy.
tennis expert here, do we?
No, we don't.
As long as it's not
We're missing our
north,
tennis
south.
expert.
All right.
It's
Is
my
this the tennis
suggestion
court
that
without
if the,
setbacks?
if the plans, Kathy, the plans are all right?
Yes.
That the board approve this evening by resolution, subject to a written decision, because I'm not going to be available at the January meeting for this, so if it's not approved now, it wouldn't be approved under written resolution till February. So to move this application along, I'm suggesting to make a resolution of approval now, it's subject to village attorney submitting a appropriate written decision.
Okay. So moved.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you both.
RJDM Great Plains Road LLC at 291 Great Plains Road.
Yeah, they put in corrected calculations.
Hi, Chairman. Representing the builder and the client for the tennis court at 291 Great Plains Road. So I've actually went and hired the surveyor who actually had a plan approved in April 2012, because the first plan, the surveyor wouldn't give me the test hole data and all the things that we talked about during the work session last week. So he actually produced a drawing that is identical with additional drainage above and beyond what was approved in 2012.
Have you had a chance to review this, Kathy?
Yeah, it has the test hole data. It doesn't have the cross-section data, but it's very clear that this would work.
Do we have this?
Did you submit it to the village? So it should be in your file, in your packet. It's a survey, it's a plan by Stephen Borelski.
I don't see anything.
Steve, it looks like this. It's right there. It's the first thing.
This thing?
Yeah, it's attached to
Yeah,
the back
but-
of it. It's on the back.
I don't know why Steve put the actual drywalls in there, sorry about that.
I mean, I'd like to see a cross-section in the, we have plantings?
Yes, we have that on a separate plan. That's on the landscape plan that was provided.
Was that previously
That was
provided?
provided previously. That was fine.
And there's a cross-section on there?
Yeah, we've actually gone
Is it-
through three,
It's not a cross-section of the drainage, no. So the details on the drainage aren't shown.
I mean, I really think we have to get complete applications in order to move ahead on some of this stuff that we're,
Right. This one, I mean, he's got plenty of room to make it work, it's just a matter of showing the cross-section. Bo and I spoke if we can get the plans before January 4th, and they can be approved, you know, we can look at them before then, I can do a decision for you on the 4th, I can get that ready. So if
I'll
you're
have it
comfortable
done,
with that.
I'll have it done this week. We've gone through 3 different surveyors and 3 different people to draw the tennis court, each time asking for all the information that Kathy and Jackie upstairs asked for. And that's why Steve said, listen, this was approved, it's, just give them number 2026. We approved it in 2012, and I actually hired him to just do another set of drawings, which is the 3rd time. So I'm gonna go, Kathy and I talked earlier, and tell him everything that she mentioned, which is mainly the cross-section, just showing the drainage to the dry well, and I'll have that done this week. I just don't wanna miss out, I know we're gonna be out, and we've already begun work, we have permit there to do work on the pool and the house already, and then we're gonna lose another 60 days, I don't wanna do that.
I don't think we can give you the approval this evening. I think we gotta get the drawing and then we can give the approval at the, if you get it done in time.
Yeah.
Okay.
The work,
If you can get the plans to the village and have them, email them to me, we can review them, go back and forth and make sure that they're okay, and then we can make a recommendation to approve it. The challenge being that we don't have a work session for the 4th, it's combined, so, I'll just have to, you know, be ready for it. I can have a.
Well, if he gets you the stuff ahead of time, you could be prepared in advance.
you can send us a memo.
Yeah.
And then you have to have your engineer sign off on the drainage
Right.
as well, right?
Yep.
Okay,
Okay, thank
So,
you.
will you send me an email, or?
I will,
Okay.
I have your email.
Okay,
I'll send it to you, I'll send you an email, then I'll have it by Friday,
okay.
okay? Thanks you folks.
Make a motion to approve the request of the applicant to adjourn for all purposes the RJDM Great Plains Road LLC, 291 Great Plains Road, to the combined January meeting.
Second,
I'll second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. In subdivision review, we are still pending decision of OAA Associates. And we'll adjourn that, a motion to adjourn that to the next meeting.
Make a motion to approve the request of the applicant to adjourn for all purposes the OIA Associates, 212 Windmill Lane, to the combined January meeting.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. With regards to 550 and 554 Hill Street, there is a letter from the applicant, Mr. Flanagan, applicant's attorney requesting, confirming the oral request made at the work session to adjourn this meeting till the regular session, work session of January 4th. So can I have a motion to,
I thought we adjourned it already.
we did,
We did, we adjourned it at the work session.
okay. Beach Meadows, we've done. Moving
Yeah, it
into
was adjourned.
site plan review, Chabad of Southampton. I did see something from Mr. Bragman in here. Is that regarding that, or is that something else?
No, that's not bad. I thought I saw
At
the
the work
win here.
session, Jeff said that he was gonna submit an application. Kathy's
Yes.
looking at it.
We just received it. It was in today's packet. You should have a copy
Yes.
for the gate installation.
Yes.
So we'll review that. Take a look.
Says
So make a motion to approve the request of the applicant to adjourn for all purposes the Chabad of Southampton, 214 Hill Street and 218 Hill Street, to the combined January meeting.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Crease Properties, 16 Windmill Lane. Mr. Leonard, you've provided some further information regarding the drainage.
Yes, I believe you have all the information you need for the drainage on the property. I think we've covered all the bases that we were looking for, having to do with any storm drainage there. So I don't know if you have any other questions or any other information that you need from us.
What was your ultimate solution, using pancake flat drainage areas?
Yes, it's similar to that. It's a system that's kind of vaulted. It's a shallow depth, but it's sized and
It's a Holtec system.
that a system that'll be able to take the roof drainage that is required.
This basically replaces nothing, correct?
Pretty much replaces nothing, that is correct.
So that's good.
Yes.
So the only question that I had, there was a statement on the plans, and I don't have the official language, because we used to have a stamp, and I don't know what happened to the stamp, for the signature for the applicant. So, Mr. Leonard added some language onto the plan, so we should just take a look at it. But I think for tonight, adopting the neg deck makes sense. So we have that done, but then.
And adjourn for
board
decision?
Decision, yeah.
Okay.
So one of those is one's for this application. I highlighted it, so it could.
I have it. So a motion to adopt the negative declaration for Crease Properties.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. And then I will make a motion, that was the, yeah. I'll make a motion to adjourn for decision the Crease Properties, 16 Windmill Lane.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Does this go to you, Kathy, or to,
Oh, I have a second copy for you to sign also.
So they can go to
you
the
give a
health
copy
department?
the applicant.
Thank you.
And then I'll submit this one to the file.
Peconic Land Trust, 296 Hampton Road?
In the file is a resolution approving the application as amended, and affirmative vote on the motion will be to approve the application.
So moved.
All in favor of this application, vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. All nay? Motion is approved. Do we need, Southampton Town Newspaper is 135 Windmill Lane.
Also with the file is a resolution conditionally approving the application, and an affirmative vote on the motion will be to approve the resolution.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor of the application, vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. All nay?
Pam?
Aye, yes.
This motion is approved. Capital Telecom Acquisitions, 153 Powell Avenue. Good evening.
Here comes telecom.
Mm-hmm.
John Coughlin on behalf of the applicants, Capital Telecom and AT&T. When we were last here at the beginning of November, there were some open questions remaining from the village's wireless consultant, Dick Comey, about the structural materials that had been prepared on behalf of the applicants. From that date to present, my client's engineering folks have been in touch with Mr. Comey. We've provided him with additional structural materials clarifying some of the questions that he had. As I think this board is aware, New York State building code currently operates under an industry standard called TIA 222F. There is a new standard called G. G is slightly more stringent, and this facility has been designed to not just satisfy F, which is currently in place in the state, and that was certified to, but also the G standard. So the facility has been designed to the latest and greatest, and those materials have been submitted to the village. That was really the last remaining issue. My office has been in contact with Ms. Eisman and Mr. Robinson from closed. We would ask that the board consider further action on the application this evening.
One of the last things was to get in writing, have Mr. Comey agree that this meets the standards, because there had been some outstanding items that we were going back and forth on. So I just asked him this morning to send that. And so I will follow up with him during this month to make sure that we get that. But as far as a secret determination, we can move forward with that. We did a Part 2 EAF. The impacts that were identified were there was either no or only a small impact identified based on the information that was received. There was, piles and piles of supporting information. Visual resource evaluation, foundation design, the structural design, the affidavit of radio frequency engineer, and the propagation maps, geotechnical evaluation, affidavits regarding alternative sites, and I think I said the real estate consulting report, I'm not sure. But based on all of the review of those, there's not expected to be a significant environmental impact, so we have a Part 3 prepared and recommend that the neg deck be adopted tonight.
At the work session, there was one public comment. Did we do anything in terms of looking at the pyramid of the current tower versus the proposed tower?
The visual analysis does acknowledge that at the entrance of the Powell Avenue site, that the tower will be visible, but for really only for that point where there's an interruption in the vegetation. Because as you get closer, of course, you're looking at all the vegetation that's on the site. And so as far as where you can see the other tower from, it depends on, where you're standing and what buildings are in between. So, the real estate evaluation, concluded that there would not be an impact. So we had that as well.
I believe the letter from the individual requested the evaluation. The evaluation was done and suggested there would be no impact.
Right.
Thank you.
Do you know what the proposed use of the existing tower is going to be? Is it going to just remain?
No, the Cablevision, as I understand, has been pretty silent as to what their future intentions are. But from what I'm told, all the wireless carriers, AT&T, Verizon, and Sprint, have been given letters saying get off. But I don't know about the other operators that are up there.
Kathy, would you just, for the record, in this meeting, sort of explain? I got the memo from you today regarding that although Mr. Comey requested the crumple zone, but the current engineering standard says there isn't going to be a crumple zone. Have I got that right? Or
Yeah, he had asked that there be a break point because the fall zone is if it was to fall, it would fall off of the property. Mm-hmm. And if it were to fall to the north specifically, it would fall on the Long Island Railroad property. So his solution or potential solution to that was to ask them to under-design it in a certain location so that way it would fall on top of itself. And if I'm getting that correct, it's kind of different language. But there are standards that, that this is designed to, the G, the new standard, which is 120 miles per hour. So, it's, if you've ever gone sailing in 35-mile-an-hour winds, you're over like this. So, that's incredible wind speed, 120 miles an hour. And so this is designed to withstand 120 miles per hour. And it's signed and stamped by a professional engineer. And we have to, at some point, trust the engineers to do their job. And, and when they're stamping that plan, they stand behind it.
And is Mr. Comey in agreement with that new position?
He says that it does meet
Okay.
those standards, yes.
And moreover, the board already has in the file a letter from the engineering firm stating that following, assuming this board and zoning board were to approve the applications before the respective boards and a permit were issued, following construction of the facility, that a post-construction inspection would be done in accord with those standards. Moreover, my clients have agreed and offered as a condition to any decision that this board might issue that they would be willing to provide the village with proof of future inspections that might be required. The current TIA standard that was referenced has an every 5 year that an inspection would be done, and the applicants would certainly agree to any decision being conditioned on that future inspection schedule taking place.
So what was the F design?
It's 85 gust, and I think it was 110 wind speed 1 second. So the G goes up to 120 for a 3 second.
And then you've taken that and you've redesigned it so it'll fail at a lower,
No.
it'll fail
No,
at
that's
120?
that's no longer been
Or
incorporated
it'll fail,
into the
oh,
design.
okay.
It's designed to withstand up to
120.
that G standard. So as opposed to, again, integrating some weak point, which would still, satisfy the F standard, that if there was going to be a kink in the tower structure, it would be at a point where if the bend were to happen, it wouldn't bend so low on the pole that it would land on the tracks. But that's been, I think Mr. Comey has agreed that if the G standard is going to be satisfied, that's really not a concern of his anymore.
So we need to do a motion to approve the neg deck, correct?
Mhm. So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Appraisal of the surrounding
Aye.
properties.
Did.
All in favor?
Aye.
Did you read Cunningham's letter?
And now we need to,
So this one gets filed with the village administrator, and so that way the zoning board will get a copy of it, and then they can.
I would ask, respectfully submit to the board, if you might consider adopting a decision on resolution pending decision. I know Mr. Robinson representing he's going to be out for the next meeting. That would allow the applicants to move, more strongly forward to the finish line, if that's something that the board would consider. Obviously conditioned on any structural concern that Mr. Comey may still have. He's had the materials for some time. I think we've addressed all the standards.
John, I still don't understand why anybody would want this thing under-designed. Does anybody have any idea what it's like to drive down the road with your sunroof open, standing up in your car at 120 miles an hour? It's inconceivable. So what we can do is, I can prepare a decision for the board based on the information at present, and then that would be available on January 4th. If anything changes, the board could amend the text at that time to accommodate whatever commentary Nelson Pope may have, so that you would have a decision available for the 4th.
Very good. Thank you.
thank you.
This will be, you're requesting the board adjourn this for all purposes.
I am.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Jobs Realty, 62 Jobs Lane.
Sean Leonard, the architect. At this point in time, I've had some conversations with Ms. Eisman, and we have some more information that I need to provide over as far as what the basement plan and the second floor plan looks like.
Yeah.
And then what the total square footage of the restaurant will be once the space is divided.
Right.
I think,
There's a requirement under New York State existing building code requiring accessibility for any new uses. So that's one of the things that needs to be looked into is how is that front space going to be universally accessible?
Right. And we had a question on the bathroom.
Yes, and that was all internal. Like I said, for the most part, when I presented this over to the board, it was more from the fact of the site and just trying to demonstrate that there is no physical change to the building, neither to the front facade nor to the rear, and that the building and the current outdoor dining space pretty much take up the entire property as it stands right now. The proposed retail space would just take the existing restaurant and be dividing the front portion of it.
And that would require less parking,
Require less parking.
less health.
And less health because the sanitary flow would definitely be reduced for the front retail, and the parking is less. But other than that, then there's some internal things such as how do we make it handicapped accessible, and the other would be to make sure that we satisfy the plumbing facilities for.
So you need to resolve those on the plan before we can schedule the public hearing.
The other question had to do with solid waste management. They deal with that. I took a ride by today and I didn't see a dumpster, so I don't know, they might have a shared dumpster back there. I'm not aware of it. So.
They do. There's a shared
Okay.
dumpster that is behind the property that is to
68 Jobs Lane.
Yes.
Okay. So is it north of the parking or is it south of the parking? Is it behind?
It's
West.
West?
Well, it's west of driver's seat.
Yeah.
Okay. I know exactly where it is.
On the north side of the parking.
Okay, I know exactly where it is now. Okay,
Yes.
great. So that was another question. Okay.
So make a motion to approve the request of the applicant to adjourn for all purposes the 62 Jobs Lane application to the
Second.
January meeting.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. The Southampton Hospital Association, 740 County Road 39.
Good evening, board members. Wayne Bruin O'Shea, Marcinsigan and Bruin for Southampton Hospital Association. We're here tonight. I'm very excited. We were previously before the board for an informal work session and presented our plans. This is now the formal site plan application. It's for Southampton's standalone cancer center, to be known as the Phillips Family Cancer Center.
Voorhees?
The property is, as everyone might be more familiar with it, is the Stehecki Barns on the southerly side of County Road 39, just west of the intersection of Hampton Road and Montauk Highway. The parcel is 2.2 acres in size, 95,962 square feet. We're located in the highway business zone. Currently, there's 3 barns, 2 one-story and 1-story barn, all in somewhat deteriorated condition. It hasn't been used for farming in a long time, but this was a prime farm center many, many years ago, as we may all know. Our team that we put together are here, and we'll have everybody briefly present that. But before I do that, on behalf of the Hospital Association, Ken Wright, the chairman of the board, is here. Our design team includes the Rayner Group. Vinnie Gaudiello is here to present our site plan. Our architect, Blaise McCoy, is here to present you with elevation designs. And Alex Blundorn of LaGuardia Design. Also, we have listed our other design experts, including our architect for the floor plan and layout, our mechanical engineers, and our lighting plan, all of which are plans that were formally submitted. We don't plan to go through all those details tonight. We understand that your consultant will have additional time to review this. We've also submitted an environmental assessment form at some point. We expect the board to review this under the SEQR regulations as well.
The proposal is to, as I mentioned, a two-story medical arts building to be functioned by, operated by the Southampton Hospital, known as the Phillips Family Cancer Center. Total gross floor area of the building is 14,383 square feet. And we've provided required off-street parking and the like. And at this point, I'd like to, unless you have particular questions for me, I would think we would want our design professionals to sort of present the plan for you. So, Vinnie?
Thank you.
Wayne Bio.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Vincent Gordiello. I'm a professional engineer with the Rayner Group. And my firm was commissioned by Southampton Hospital to do a survey of the property as well as to generate the civil engineering site plan drawings which have been submitted. What we have here, as Wayne pointed out, is a two-story, 14,000 plus square foot building. The access to this site is proposed from County Road 39A via an existing curb cut that is proposed to the west of us through South Fork Professional Associates. What you have here between this property of South Fork Professional Associates is a small 50-foot sliver of property that's owned by Hampton Road Associates. It is our objective to obtain permission from those neighbors to take vehicle access from those properties. Mr. Bruin can speak a little bit further about that, but we have begun a dialogue with them and have some verbal commitments from them to permit that. As far as our access to this site, both this being unobstructed, or I should say with unregulated access, we are proposing one exit only southbound. These locations have been discussed with DPW both in the field, and we had received some written confirmation from them that our proposal is acceptable, and that when time permits, we would actually make formal applications to permit those constructions within the road right-of-way. What we have here are 79 parking spaces, of which one is a off-street loading space that meets your dimensional requirements. We also have 6 handicap accessible spaces. The alignment of the curbing and the circulation through our site is designed in a manner that would accommodate the Southampton Fire District's largest vehicle. I apologize, the number of the vehicle escapes me, but we have met with the fire marshal and we reviewed what the requirements would be and what that turning radius would need to be to accommodate that, and we've aligned our curbs accordingly. What we have basically is a drop-off area in front of the building. This would be a one-way, and then throughout the rest of the site, it would be two-way traffic. We have an entranceway through the rear of the building that would access through the second floor. And again, as far as the way that building is laid out, I'll reserve comments with the architect who will be later speaking. But the intent really is to allow people to both park in the rear as well as in the front of the building and provide suitable access to both the rear and the front so our parking is properly distributed. We're not providing parking spaces on the other side of the property and people have to walk all the way around. The topography for the site, in essence, slopes from the rear of the site to the front. And that's why we have come up with this concept in which we would be having an access in the rear, where the rear of the property, in essence, is approximately 10 feet higher than the front of the site. The grading throughout the parking lot does not exceed 8%, which is a requirement of your code. So we have accommodated that with the parking through both the sides of the building. As far as the design requirements, grading, drainage, curbing alignment, as I mentioned, it is designed in a manner that's intended to meet your standards. As far as the sanitary requirements, we are proposing an on-site conventional sanitary system. It is sized to accommodate our proposed sanitary flow. The sanitary flow for this site exceeds the population equivalent density permitted by the health department. What our plans are is to procure Pine Barrens credits for the purposes of meeting what the requirements of Article 6 would be and to use a conventional sanitary system. We are proposing 2 fire services, one for fire protection, the building will be sprinklered, and one for domestic consumption. We will extend natural gas to the site. We will provide electricity, obviously, and cable and television. All those utilities of which are shown on the site plan drawings that have been submitted to you today. Other than that, if the board has any specific questions with respect to the site layout, I'd gladly like to answer them. One thing I might add, between our informal discussion with this board and our submission, we did receive some very preliminary comments from your planning consultant. I think there were like 16 or 17 items. We believe we've addressed all those 17 comments.
Looks great. Nice job. Nice presentation.
So we'll let Blaise McCoy give you a feel for the architectural elevations.
The design, the exterior of the building really hasn't changed much from the working session drawings that were submitted. This is the perspective view of the approach from County Road 39. As it was mentioned earlier, there's roughly a 10-foot slope from the back of the site to the front, and we accommodated that with, it's really a 2-story building facing the street, and then a 1-story building at the back side of the property. The building was inspired by the potato barns that were actually there prior to that, or currently there, I should say. The materials are pretty straightforward. There's a masonry base, which is primarily only exposed on the street side of the property. And then the second floor, which is the 1 floor in the back, is we're looking at some sort of a wood or composite siding that appears like wood. I think we brought samples in last. We're still working on finding the exact product, but that would most likely be a rain screen type of system. The roof, it's one single long bar. The roof is, we're talking about whether or not that would be either a shingle roof or metal standing seam. With the metal, it would be some sort of a grayish tone. We're kind of in that process right now. Happy to answer any questions, but.
Again, the slats on the end are.
Sorry. At either end of the building is primarily glass. These louvers are, the product we're looking at right now have structural extruded aluminum struts. Vertical struts, and then a wood, composite wood louver. And the idea behind that is to kind of modify that glazing while still allowing a lot of bright daylight into that space, and without glare going into some of these places. One of the spaces is infusion room, so people are going to be sitting in chairs for a while. The light's going to move around. We didn't want any uncomfortable conditions there. And also, by placing these in front of the glass, our feeling is that it will eliminate or greatly modify the ability to be in those spaces and look down and see parking and cars and things like that. So you're really limiting the view to almost right out into the trees. So that was
My
the
wife
intent
is in
behind
the hospital. She had
and
a
those
fall.
protrude roughly about 2 feet beyond the glass.
She got in about 6:30.
Okay.
Tell him.
I will.
That's why I'm leaving.
Okay.
Alex?
Okay, Flora, she okay?
My wife had a fall in New York. She's in the emergency room.
Okay, she okay?
She got in at 6:30.
Okay.
So touching on the landscape in the front of the property, we have London plane trees, which is a typical tree for Southampton Village. Going around the property, we proposed an evergreen hedge of green giant arborvitae. Most all of the plants on the entire property were chosen for low maintenance and for their resistance to deer. So we've got a boxwood hedge in the front of the property that was intended really to block the view of cars from 27 and County Road 39.
How tall is that hedge?
3 feet. And boxwood, so that it's evergreen. Same thing on the other side of the property to enclose the space.
And how high is that elevation above the road, right at that point? Right,
This-
no, the next set.
This-
Yeah, that one.
It's the same relatively the same elevation.
Okay.
Yeah. So really the goal with this hedge is to just block the view of cars in front of the property.
Okay.
Surrounding the property, we have heritage river birch, groves of them, going all the way around the property. In the back, we've proposed some cherry trees, kind of an orchard of cherry trees that you'd walk under as you enter the back of the building. We also have some green roof trays, which you typically see on a roof, but this is a courtyard that's got window views from the oncology suite. So this is an area that we really want to make beautiful, but we certainly want to make low maintenance. So this is a low-growing ground cover of sedums and a green roof tray, which you typically see on a roof. It's only about 3 inches in growing media. In the back of the property, you also have a hedge that's proposed to be a European beech hedge, so it's deciduous. Again, there too is to block the view of the cars from the suite and from the windows. And in the back of the property, again, we still have some big deciduous London plane trees to block views of utilities and unsightly features surrounding the property. Any questions?
Here's a question. There's no trees or shrubs worth saving on the site at this point?
Thank you for bringing that up. There is one tree, there's an American elm on the very edge of the property that's worth saving, and we are gonna keep it. But throughout the remainder of the site, there's a lot of grading that's gonna have to happen once the existing buildings come out. So this is the remaining tree that we'd like to keep, as it's an old American elm.
Where's the entrance from the second floor level around the back?
Right here.
Okay.
Right through here. So there's actually 2 entrances that we've split in half.
Okay.
Have trees in between. But that's the back door entrance.
And then there's a walkway to an adjacent parking lot?
Yes. This is the adjacent,
The other medical center,
Yes,
the other
exactly.
medical facility.
Yeah, the OBGYN is, if you look at our site plan, you can see the existing parking lot.
Right.
And so we're not only looking to coordinate pedestrian access between the two parking lots, but also the vehicle access on the end.
So, I don't know anything about this, but cherry trees that you're gonna walk under are gonna have to be big to start with to get under.
High branching, yes. So we'll make sure that's in our specifications, that they're high branching, so that they're not a safety or a hazard to people walking underneath. And the same goes for the trees along the street.
That'll be pretty. Not that I wanna visit, but.
Yeah, right. It's good that it's there, though.
Okay, thank you.
Unless the board has any specific questions, I know we'll look forward to a report from Kathy at the next meeting, if not before that, but I assume it'll be at the next meeting. That's it.
Thank you, very nicely done, appreciate it.
Make a motion to approve the request of the applicant to adjourn for all purposes the Southampton Hospital Association, 740 County Road 39, to the combined January meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
All in favor? Aye.
I was just going to report that your other board member made his way to his car.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And last but definitely not least, the African American Museum of the East End. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you. I'm Linda Riley, 235 Hampton Road for the applicant. The applicant is tonight is the East End African no, excuse me, East End African American Museum and Center for Excellence, Inc. It is a not-for-profit corporation that was formed for the purposes of celebrating and preserving and studying the African American heritage and culture background in this community. This project involves property at 245 North Sea Road. The premises are an assemblage, really, of 3 different tax map lots. The tax map lot that is number 71 is vacant land owned by the village. The one that's tax map number 72 is the former barber shop, which was purchased with Peconic Community Preservation Funds and is owned now jointly by the town and the village through their acquisition with the Peconic Community Preservation Funds. And it was acquired specifically for this purpose, for converting it into the African American Museum. There's another tax map lot, number 73, that was formerly part of the Suffolk County National Bank premises, just off to the side there. It was recently deeded as a gift by the Suffolk County National Bank to the village, and that deed has been signed and conveyed. The plan is to reconstruct the existing building, which is in extreme disrepair, for use as a museum and a research study center. Much of the funding for the reconstruction will come also from Peconic Community Preservation Funds. So this is very much a joint enterprise with the town, the village, and this not-for-profit organization. Similar to the arrangement with the Southampton Historical Museum. The property will continue to be owned by the village with that one bit that is co-owned with the town, and there will be a long-term lease agreement or license agreement with the not-for-profit corporation to run it. The Board of Architectural Review and Historic Preservation awarded landmark status to this property in December 13th, 2010. And again, for the express purpose of acquiring this property with the community preservation funds and then converting it to the proposed museum. Given the strong municipal component here, we are going to ask the board at the end of this presentation, and upon review of the submitted documents and plans, to waive the usual site plan requirements of 11638. But we'll get to that. The project has been in the works for many years and has been publicized in a number of newspaper articles. The new building will be wholly contained within the footprint of the existing building, although it will have some required access ramps, a small deck, and exterior stairways off to the side and the back of the building. All is depicted on the site plan and the survey that you got from Squires, Holden, Weisenbacher, and Smith. It will have a new basement, which will be used for mechanicals and storage, including the storage of archived materials, but not as public assembly space. It is located in the office district zone, where a museum is a permitted use. It will have a first floor gross floor area of only 774 square feet, much of which will be taken up with a center stairwell, a reception desk, and a handicapped accessible bathroom. It will not be used to host large gatherings of people because there simply is not enough room. It will have a few desks and computer stations that will serve as research study areas and some display space. Plans and elevations by CMAX SAMI have been submitted, and CMAX SAMI is here today to show those to you and describe them in a little more detail. And the last thing I want to say before I call him up is that approval has been obtained already from the Suffolk County Department of Health Services for the installation of a new, fully new code-compliant septic system. So I'd like to introduce CMAX SAMI now.
Good evening, board members. Good evening. CMAX SAMI architect. I've been involved in this project for a number of years now. Originally, we had a larger scope. We were planning to expand the building. In the past year, our focus has been primarily to restore the existing building. As Linda mentioned, the building has been designated landmark. It's not the architectural integrity of the existing building that opted for this designation, but more the usage of it, which was a community gathering spot. There's different criteria for granting a historic landmark building. Architecture is, of course, one of them. In this case, this wasn't a significant architectural building, but more of, again, as I said, the usage of the neighborhood, gathering there, discussing their daily and lives and so forth. Basically, a community center for the area. And to that extent, that was the premise for granting of the landmarks. And of course, this helps us in the future for applying for various types of grants for the operation of this building. I did have a larger scale phase 2 plan at one point for this thing, but at the present, this is primarily addressing in front of you the first phase, or actually I must say the only phase of it, which is the restoration of the existing building. The building does not have much of a basement that is in good condition. That basement is quite old. It's a masonry structure, and numerous cracks and so forth. So we're basically raising this building, putting a new foundation underneath it, and then in the process of putting it back, restoring any and every element that needs to. And I would say that probably majority of it will be a new building. I'll quickly walk you through this. As Linda mentioned, this is an extremely small building, 774 square feet, same size as my apartments of my daughter that just started living on her own. Footprint is rectangular with the angle of North Main Street cutting it. And we're keeping the same elevation in the front. There are going to be a pair of skylights, which presently are brick stoops in the front of the building. We're converting that into the skylights to bring some natural light to the lower level. The entrance stays on the axis. Originally, there were two entrances to this building, and there was a wall right in that center of that existing building. We're keeping them two doors, but the space, that wall in the center has been removed, and we've opened up into one space. And the combination of the stairs going downstairs, the handicap accessible bathroom, the reception's desk, and a small display area has been designed in the format of basically a sculptural element in this small space, so that basically it would function as one loft type space or barn type space with the sculpture in it. The exterior of it basically provides a staircase, second means of egress to the basement, and a ramp in the back for handicap accessibility to the main floor. We have on the site, which you can see in your survey, access from North Main Street and from Hillcrest. This is going to be a one-way road, accessed from Hillcrest and exiting onto North Main Street. We have 6 regular parking spots, 2 handicap. The corner of the site is basically site location for the garbage dumpster. And as we mentioned, on the north west corner of the site is where the septic system has been approved by the subsequent. I have a couple of sketches here, views from the street. The building is going to be shingled, 2 types of shingles, so that you'll see this layered striped effect on it. Alaskan yellow cedar and red cedar are going to be stepped in rows. And the existing trim showed some signs of red finish on it, so we're actually picking that up and painting all the trim on the building the same color red. And that same red will be basically introduced in a much more vibrant red on the interior of the building. And by the way, this is the skylights that I mentioned, bringing natural light to the lower level. And This is the sculptural element on the interior, which, as I said, combines the staircase that goes downstairs to the basement, the display area, the reception desk, and the bathroom into one sculptural element, dividing the space into a front and a back room, if you may. The back room is the research center with a table and a few stations, computer stations. And the front basically would be a very small display area for any art or activities. I'd suggest basically to consider the main gathering of this building to be more of an exterior space to the south of it, which is the property actually on the corner of Hillcrest and North Main Street, which is a basically open space. And summertime, that would probably be used as a larger gathering spot for the museum. If there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer. So Tim, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about any landscape elements.
Okay, sure. Yeah, we have some landscape plans to show you that weren't submitted before. Tim Rum from Arias Design is going to hand those out.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Tim Rum from Arias Design. We too have been working along with the team for the past couple of years on the project. What I've submitted for your review today is just a conceptual planting landscape plan. Part of what we're trying to do is, there's not a lot of space, but we want to be able to bring some of the elements perhaps that are in the neighborhood. There are some grasses and some perennials that are located in the island or in North Sea Road at this point. And some of those elements we're going to bring onto the site. We hope to. There's some small flowering trees. We want to add some summer interest to that site. As CMAC said, that southerly space will become more of an outdoor museum space. We want to make that comfortable and make that aesthetic as well. So these are some of the thoughts we had as we move forward. Thank you.
What's the hedge? You're adding this hedge, right, around this portion?
That is actually, that's going to be just a low planting bed of those grasses and perennials that are located in the traffic island. That's the traffic calming idea out on North Main Street. We're just going to bring some textures and colors and kind of tie that all together.
And these big trees exist?
The ones that are not colored exist, we're keeping. The ones that are rendered are proposed.
Excuse me. You want to hand that to me?
Let me see it.
Is this, whose jacket is this?
The Warren, I think. Hey, your
That's
jacket
it.
too. Wait. This you?
I guess if I so.
All right. Be safe.
Very excited. Sorry about that.
Just one more question. There's 4 trees on the south side that border Hillcrest?
Yes.
Those are existing as well?
Yes, they
Okay.
are. All of those, all of the ones that aren't rendered are existing.
So just a few other points. There is currently no on-site parking on this site, but the proposed site plan provides 7 new parking spaces, which will the vehicles will enter from Hillcrest, again, at a safe distance, pretty far back in the lot, so it's a safe distance from the corner of Hillcrest and North Sea Road. Given that there will only be 1 employee on the site when the facility is open, the proposed parking we submit will be more than sufficient. In addition, it is anticipated and planned that there will be a special emphasis in this facility on providing research facilities for local youth who will most likely be coming from the surrounding neighborhood without vehicles. So I think there's ample reason to find that the proposed parking is adequate. Also, there are no natural environmental features on the site to be concerned about. The significance of this site is largely historical and cultural, and the purpose of this project is to recognize and promote that cultural heritage. No outdoor lighting is proposed except for one exterior lamp at the front and back entrance. And the facade, as you've heard, is proposed to duplicate really the historical facade to a great extent. You don't have any signage proposal in front of you, but the signage and other aspects of the plan will be submitted to the Architectural Review Board. We have to go there for a certificate of appropriateness and for further review, so we'll be doing that also. At this point, I'm here to take any comments you have, but we are hopeful that we can move this along, even though we've already spent several years on it, or maybe because we've already spent several years on it.
I just had a couple comments from the engineer about the lack of topo, that it would be good to have existing and proposed topo on the map, so that way they can evaluate the drainage and so forth. So I don't know if that's something that's available that Squires Holden has.
Well, it's not easily available. It's also a very flat site, I mean, generally speaking, but I will, I guess we'll see about that. I'll try to get that.
They've got 4 corner elevations that the north side goes from 32 to 33 over 67 feet. And I think just the back corner goes up a couple feet more than that. So, I mean, in general, it looks very flat.
Okay.
Do you see those? You see
yes,
those?
I do. I see them. The other question I had is the proposed sidewalk. Is that something that the village is proposing, or that that will be built as part of this?
Well, I think our thought is that the village will be doing that. It's, excuse me, let me just.
It's on the hill stretch.
Doesn't this exist?
Yeah.
This would be the villages.
Yeah, it's the villages. It's on the village property, and the thought is that it would be constructed by the village. It's on village property, I mean, it's, of course, the property itself, where the project is gonna be, is village property, but, I mean, it's outside the
It's in the
boundaries of
right-of-way
those
of the
lots.
road.
Yeah, it's in the right-of-way for the street, the sidewalk.
There were a couple other minor comments, that the dry wells shouldn't be right on top of each other. So, but I think that. And also, Gary Gillespie, whenever there's, well, I guess this is not a new, is this a new curb cut? I haven't been down there yet.
It is a new curb cut.
It's a new
The
curb
one on
cut.
Hillcrest,
It's
yes,
a new
it is.
curb cut.
Yes, it's a new.
Okay, so, it usually requires a new drain related to any curb cut. So I'll talk to Gary Gillespie about that.
Okay.
But what the input from the engineer is that, his name is Tom Dixon, he says it doesn't really prefer the trench drains at the entrances, just because they're a maintenance issue. They get clogged very easily, and so the water just skips right over them, or you end up having to.
What
deal
does
with
he
it.
prefer?
Traditional, catch basins, levers. But we should talk to Gary Gillespie also and find out if he's gonna want a catch basin on Hillcrest, which he might.
Well, it's actually, once you get past here, Hillcrest keeps going uphill. So you're like you're kind of at the bottom of the hill. I don't know how effective that would be, but. I mean, they could just put one of the dry wells in the driveway
Mhm.
by the back and another one by the entrance, right under the parking lot, and then end up.
Okay, and you had mentioned that the site plan was being revised to show the parking not being right on property line, that there was going to be a buffer there?
Yes, unfortunately, Squires couldn't get that to me today. We did offer a 5-foot setback, if you will, for planting some screening between the the only adjacent residential neighbor on Hillcrest
Right.
and this property, yes.
Yeah, that'd be good. I don't know what the hours are, would there be activity after dark, or?
That's
Probably this time
not,
of
no, that's not specifically planned.
Yeah. But a buffer along that would be a good thing to do.
The planting plan will reflect that change too.
Mhm. Okay.
So this is, what, Tom Dixon is the?
Tom Dixon's the engineer at Nelson Pope.
At Nelson Pope, okay. So I may call you for some clarification and further.
Yeah, actually, I should put this in, I'll put it in a memo. I just got his input today.
Okay.
So
Yeah, okay, we'll talk some more about it. And I'll get some revisions. I had already promised you the one from Squires and some other things between now and the next meeting.
They may actually have, if they don't have site-specific info, they may have the LiDAR data from Suffolk County. That might be good enough for this.
Yeah, he
Since
has
Since it's relatively flat, it's just really just to show that there won't be any changes in grade. So that way, we can get this.
Okay. Yeah. Anything else?
So you were going to address the waiver point, waiving
The public hearing? Well, we have another meeting to come back to, I guess, with the rest of it. I was going to ask, and I am going to ask for a waiver of the public hearing because it's something that will be heard before our Architectural Review Board. Also, we're really not changing the building much at all. It's just, rehabbing it. And because it serves a municipal purpose and isn't going to generate any noise or
Is there a time issue, or, I mean, I can't imagine there's any objection to this, but
it's just, there hasn't been any objection to it.
Why not have the public meeting at the January meeting?
We could have that at the January meeting, that would be fine.
So motion
Yeah.
to schedule public hearing?
So moved for January combined meeting.
Second.
all in
Okay.
favor?
Aye.
No, I think it looks great, and if you get the minor details Kathy's requesting,
Right, we'll
I
get
think
that
we should
squared
be
away.
good to go.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Thank you. So that concludes the agenda.
Motion to adjourn that for all purposes.
After the scheduling of the public hearing? Okay. Make a motion to approve the request of the applicant to adjourn for all purposes the AAMEE 245 North Sea Road till the January meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do we want to talk about minutes?
I think we should wait till we get everything else in here, right? Yeah, right.
So, the next meeting will not be the last Monday in December. We have, because of the holidays, we will be having a combined work session and public meeting on January 4th, 2015, beginning at 5 p.m. With that, like to wish everybody all the best and ask for a motion to close the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.